Look, gold is gold. Whether you make a bracelet out of it, a phone out of it, or earrings out of it. You don't price gold differently if a poor man is buying a gold or a rich man is buying a gold. There's no poor man's gold or a rich man's gold. Spectrum is spectrum is spectrum is spectrum. Spectrum is finite, spectrum is valuable. This 2G, 3G classification is an afterthought, it's a made-up argument. It's not a tenable argument to say that spectrum that is being given away for 1,500 crores is less valuable than spectrum that is being given away for 10,000 crores. It is the same value. I can guarantee today that if you bid out a license of 2G today,
that price
will be 10,000 crores.
Yep.
The question that should be asked is, what was don't make the argument, because we are not fools. Nobody is a fool. Don't make the argument that the spectrum is less valuable. The only argument that can be made today is that the spectrum is being given away cheap because of a certain set of policy objectives. And we should then debate those policy objectives. Because, like I said, that spectrum was given away cheap. Let us not argue about it. It was given away cheap. What was the reasoning for it? It was a 2004 telecom regulator's decision. Whatever, we'll get into that. But the fact is, 2G spectrum is as valuable as 3G spectrum.
So this whole comparison of basmati rice, PDS rice,
I challenge anybody who makes that argument, whoever it is.
Mr. Raja made that argument.
Whoever makes that argument today, I challenge that if you today do an auction, which is what the private companies are doing. In a lot of ways, they're doing private auctions.
Because that's precisely what happened in the case of Unitech, in the case of Swan.
Yeah. So company A and company B gets a license with the spectrum from the government of India by paying 1,500 crores. And 4 days later, are able to charge 9,000 crores from it from an investor abroad. Which means what? The value of that company is 9,000 crores. The value of the spectrum
even
is 9,000
if the only
crores.
asset that belongs to the company is just that piece of paper, which guarantees it spectrum.
So therefore, the question that we all ought to be asking, as members of parliament, as regular citizens of this country, this spectrum belongs to us. You have given the spectrum away to company A at a price that is clearly now lower than market price. No, please explain to us.
The market changed dramatically between 2001 and 2008. I mean, the market went up almost 7 times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So what was the justification?
To maintain the prices.
That's right.
No. That now, for example, you have to ask Mr. Baijal, who was the regulator in 2004, who said that we will do UASL licenses. Up to 2000.
UASL stands for Universal
Access Service licenses. Up to that time, there was only cellular licenses and fixed licenses. And you could only get those licenses through a process of bidding. Even in the dark days of Sukram, the only way you could get a license was through a process of bidding. The first time a conventional process of tendering for a telecom license was given the go-by was in 2004 on the back of a regulator's recommendation that you don't have to bid and that these WLL...
No, but once again, Mr. Raja is saying he followed the TRAI regulation. But the then head of the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, Mr. Nipendra Mishra, he himself said that his recommendations were cherry-picked. You give a set of, say, 20 recommendations, you pick up 2 that suit you and you ignore the rest of the 18.
But, this is what, Paranjoy, the recent letter that I've written to the Prime Minister, we must focus, we talk about ministers and we talk about corporate shenanigans and political shenanigans. In my opinion, there is not enough of a spotlight on the role and conduct of regulators this whole duration. The independent regulator as an institution was created in 1997, 1998, precisely because people knew that wherever there is a contract and value of such value and such immense value at play, there will always be the temptation of some shortcuts, political sweet deals. The regulator was created, independent regulator was created, the position of independent regulator was created precisely to make sure that this does not happen. Why were they asleep at the wheel? Why were they silent spectators to this all the way from 2004? This is a question
So you would say that the regulatory authority is as responsible as the political leadership or the bureaucracy that was responsible?
Paranjoy, let's be very frank. You and I accept that in today's politics of India, politicians and bureaucrats are, let's say, always in the middle of temptations. they're constantly fiddling with contracts, they're constantly trying to do what they shouldn't be doing. It is precisely to protect a sector against that the institution of independent regulators was created. Justice Sodhi, who was the first independent regulator, was a great man. I mean, I remember when the independent regulator was first appointed, and Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister those days, under Mr. Devegowda was the prime minister, that we could see that this, the institution of regulator, if it was allowed to grow, it would take away all of these shenanigans. But from 2004 onwards, and earlier from 2001 onwards, if you see the conduct of the regulator, they have become more and more like a second bureaucracy. Silent,
of being an independent
ombudsman,
guardian,
pushing back political pressures, standing up for what is correct, standing up for the right, laying down principles. They did not do any of that.
Okay. Mr. Chandrasekhar, I need to take one more break in our program.
Yeah.
After the break, in the next segment, I want you to discuss 2 or 3 issues. One is, was the Department of Telecommunications justified in bringing forward the last date for receiving the applications from the 25th of September 2000, from the 1st of October 2007 to the 25th of September? And the manner in which the actual license were allotted on the 10th of January 2008, the procedures. Now, let's talk a little bit about that, and then we can discuss about the extent to which spectrum was undervalued.
Sure.
We are discussing valuation of electromagnetic spectrum which are used by telecommunications companies, a very, very contentious and controversial issue. Stay with us. We'll be back with you.